Welcome to ASA. In this video, we're going to look on conditional probability. So I've received a lot of questions about conditional probability, and I think I found the right example. So after watching this video, I think we'll be able to solve any conditional probability problem. So what do we have today? Customers are asked to evaluate new products. In the past, 25% of highly successful products it received good evaluations, 1% of moderately successful products it received good evaluations, and 20% of unsuccessful products that received good evaluations. It is also known that 55% of all products were highly successful, while 25% were moderately successful and 20% were unsuccessful. Compute the probability of a new product receiving good evaluation, that is the first part. If a new product receives a good evaluation, what is the probability that it will be highly successful? If a new product does not receive a good evaluation, compute the probability that it will be highly successful. So these are the questions. So the first question that you may be asking me is, how do you know that we are going to apply conditional probability? So the first clue that I'm going to get, if there's word if when I'm dealing with probability questions, that means that is a condition. So that means we have to apply conditional probability, right? So some of you may be new to conditional probability. So P of A bar B, that means the probability of A given that B has already occurred. So that is the representation that we use, right? And on the right hand side we have P A intersection B, and also we have P of B. So P of B is simple, that is the probability of B, right? So what about the probability of A intersection B? So from basic mathematics, know that when you have intersection, it's a region which is common to two or more elements, right? So this is just the probability of both A and B occurring. So on the first part, we have to compute the probability of a new product receiving a good evaluation. So before attempting question, I think it's better to write what we have, right? So that we can see what we're working with, right? So as you can see, we have three types of products. We have unsuccessful products, we have highly successful products, and we have moderately successful products. And we're interested in evaluating products. So I think it's good for us if we say let G represents good evaluation, right? So like I said, we have three types of products. So I'm going to let M represent moderately successful products, and H represents highly successful products, and finally U represents unsuccessful products. On the last statement, we're told that it is also known that 55% of all products were highly successful, while 25% were moderately successful and 20% were unsuccessful. Let's say if someone brings you 100 products, it is known that out of 100 products, 55% of those products are going to be highly successful, and 25% are going to be moderately successful, and 20% are going to be unsuccessful. So that means the probability of a product being successful is equal to 0.55. So 0.55, that means you just change 55% to a decimal, right? So that is going to be 55 of 100. Then the probability of a product being moderately successful, that is going to be 25%, which is going to be equal to 0.25. And finally, the probability of a product being unsuccessful, that is going to be 0.20. So now let's look at the second statement. In the past, 25% of highly successful products had received good evaluations. Now let's say I've chosen highly successful products. That doesn't mean that we're going to receive good evaluations. Only 25% of them are going to receive good evaluations, right? So the probability of highly successful products receiving good evaluation is going to be 25%. So that means we're going to write it as PG bar H. So this is the probability of products receiving good evaluations, provided that they are highly successful. I also told that 1% of moderately successful products had received good evaluations. So first of all, we have to pick the moderately successful products, and after that they're going to be evaluated, and I told that only 1% of them had received good evaluations. Now we're going to write this as the probability of G bar M, probability of product receiving good evaluations, provided that they are moderately successful products. That's going to be 0.01, right? That is 1%. Please don't make a mistake of writing 1% as 0.1. And finally, the probability of products receiving good evaluations, provided that they are unsuccessful, that is going to be 20%. That's going to be 0.02. So since we've written down all the information that were given, I think it's the best time for us to attempt our questions. So the first question is, compute the probability of a new product receiving good evaluation, right? Okay, so we don't know if this product is going to be highly successful, it's going to be moderately successful, or it's going to be unsuccessful. So we have two stages right here. So the first stage is going to be selection, and the second stage is going to be evaluation. So I'm going to use an animation to show you what I'm trying to say. So let's say 100 products are put in a basket, right? So you know that 55% of these products are highly successful, 25% are moderately successful, and 1% are unsuccessful, right? So first of all, you're going to pick a product, right? So you're going to select. You don't know which product you're going to select. It can be either highly successful, moderately successful, or unsuccessful. That is going to be the first stage. And after doing that, you're going to evaluate the product, right? Okay, so as you can see, we have selection and evaluation, right? So in probability, when you hear the word and, that's why we're going to use multiplication, and when you hear the word or, we're going to use addition. So now let's say I've chosen moderately successful products, right? That doesn't mean all of them are going to receive good evaluations. We know that only 0.01 are going to receive good evaluations. So in this example, we've assumed that you have picked the moderately successful product, but you can choose highly successful products or moderately successful products or unsuccessful products. So now the probability of a product receiving good evaluations, first of all, it has to be selected, and after that it has to be evaluated, right? So in our example, we have chosen the moderately successful product. So first of all, it's going to be the probability of selecting a moderately successful product times the probability of evaluating it. That is going to be P of M times PG bar M, right? Okay, so since it's multiplication, 2 times 3 and 3 times 2, so we say this can happen to any type of the products, right? So it can be either highly successful products, moderately successful products, or unsuccessful products. So when you have or, that means these are going to be options. So we're going to add, right? When you have or, you add. When you have and, you multiply. So we're going to add the probability of picking a highly successful product, then the probability of evaluating it, plus the probability of picking unsuccessful products times the probability of evaluating it, right? Okay, so we have everything that we need right here. So now it's a matter of plugging the values that we have, right? Okay, and if we do that, we're going to get our answer. It's 0.18. So the other thing that you have to know in probability, your probability should be less than or equal to 1. If it is percentage, it should be less than or equal to 100%. So this is the probability of a product receiving good evaluation. I have good news, guys. So our channel is now a membership program, right? So that means you can become a member of this channel. So the advantages of becoming a member: when you become a member, you can access only members video, only members shorts, and you can also access only members live streams. So there's some videos which take a long time to produce, so they're only available to members. So if you become a member, you can access those videos. And the other thing, you can also engage in super chat, right? So your comments will be on top with a badge, and the fee is very cheap. It's $5. Some of you don't know how to join, so to join it's very easy. If you check in the description, I've put a link. You're going to press join, right? So you can either use a credit card, you can also use a visa. So that's a great way to support. So there's some people who may need direct help and direct contact from me, so there's another level. So what is the second question? If a new product receives a good evaluation, what is the probability that it will be highly successful? So some people may confuse this with probability of G bar H. So it's different thing. We need the reverse of that, right? So PG bar H means the probability of a product receiving good evaluation, provided that it is highly successful. But in this case, we need the probability of H bar G, which is the probability of a product being highly successful, provided that it has received good evaluation. Okay, so now let's write our conditional probability. So right here, we're going to use the conditional probability formula, since we say this is the probability of H occurring given G, right? Okay, so from our formula, we know that if we have H bar G is same as the probability of H intersection G over the probability of G. So the good news is that we have PG, which is the probability of a product receiving good evaluation. And the bad news is that if our PG is wrong, this question is also going to be wrong, but our PG is correct, right? Okay, I certainly know that. Let's write our PG right here. So from the formula of conditional probability, we said if we have A intersection B, that is the probability of A and B occurring at the same time, right? So that means probability of A and the probability of B. So that is same as A times B. So in this case, it is the probability of a product being highly successful and probability of a highly successful product receiving good evaluation. So it's going to be 0.25 times 0 0.55 over 0.18. To those wondering why you didn't put 0.18, it's because we've said it's H and G both occurring, a highly successful product receiving good evaluation, right? Not end product. So if we simplify, we're going to get 0.76. So for those of you who haven't subscribed, this is the good time to click the button, right? If you have any question, the comment section is all yours. Last part, if a new product does not receive a good evaluation, compute the probability that it will be highly successful. So in the question, we only have products receiving good evaluation, right? Not the opposite. So we're going to tackle this question. So in mathematics, there's something that we call the inverse, which acts like an opposite of something, right? Yes, not an opposite, not quite an opposite, but something like that. So it says the probability ranges from 0 to 1. So 0 means something is not going to happen, and 1 it's a certainty, which means something is going to happen. For example, the probability that you're going to subscribe is going to be 1, unless you want to prove me wrong. So in this case, we need to find the probability that a product does not receive good evaluation, right? Okay, so let's just draw our inverse set right here. So this whole set is going to be the probability of a product receiving good evaluation or bad evaluation. So that means if we add all those probabilities, we should get 1, right? So inside this set, we have the probability of a product receiving good evaluation, which we've calculated, right? And outside this set, it's going to be the probability of a product not receiving good evaluation, right? That is going to be outside the set, which you can say complement, right? You can say P, the probability of G complement, which means outside G, right? Okay, so if you know the probability of a product receiving a good evaluation, you can also know the probability of a product not receiving a good evaluation. For example, if someone say there are 200 people right here and 50 are women, how many are men? You can just count men among those people, but a clever person will say 200 minus 50 and you get 150. Okay, so this is the same scenario right here. So say the maximum number that we can have on the probability is going to be 1. So if say the 1 minus the probability of a product receiving good evaluation, the extra probability that we're going to get is the probability of a product not receiving good evaluation. Okay, so in this question, if a new product does not receive a good evaluation, compute the probability that it will be highly successful. So this is the case we're going to use reverse conditional probability. Some may call it Bayes theorem. If a new product does not receive a good evaluation, that is the condition, right? So this is going to be G complement. Compute the probability that it will be highly successful, that is going to be H. So it's going to be the probability of H bar G complement, right? So from Bayes theorem, what you can do, we can use the reverse conditional probability. So you can see from the question we have H bar G complement, but we're going to reverse this. We're going to write this as probability of G bar given H has occurred times the probability of H over the probability of G bar. So Bayes theorem is just a special form of conditional probability, but in this case we're going to use reverse conditional probability. That's why we have multiplied by the probability of H. So if you read the second question, so the probability of G complement bar H is just the opposite of that statement. So you can say, what is the conditional probability of a product being highly successful provided that it does not receive good evaluation, which you can say is same as 1 minus the probability of a product being highly successful provided that it receives good evaluation, right? So that means you can rewrite it as this, right? So now we have everything that we need. It's just now a matter of plugging in the values. So remember I said PG complement is same as saying 1 minus PG, and we have PG. So now let's plug in our values, right? So if we plug in our values, we're going to get our answer as 0.50. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.